Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Rosalind. On this channel, I feature lifestyle, inspiration, and self-care. If you're interested in any of those topics, go ahead and do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, also the notification bell, so you'll be notified as soon as a video goes live. In today's video, I want to talk to you about setting standards for yourself. I'm going to give you my top tips and reasons why I think you should set standards. All right, so we hear people talk about setting standards in general. I think that each standard should be very personal and it really depends on the person. So when you set personal standards, it really guides your behaviors, your actions, your decisions, and a whole lot of other things in life. So the first tip that I have for you in setting your own personal standards is to really get to know yourself. You have to understand who you are, what you like, what you don't like, what you deem acceptable, what you deem unacceptable in order for you to create your own standards. This is kind of how businesses run. This is how schools run. This is how a lot of different environments and sectors run is they create a list of standards. So for example, at your work, their standards are, of course, you have to be on time. So if you're 5 minutes late, sometimes people give you a cushion. If you're 10 minutes late, you're tardy. Some people, if you're 1 minute late, you're tardy. But they have set a standard for how your work is guided and when you come to work, what's acceptable and what's unacceptable. And I think it should be the same way with your life and your lifestyle. So the first tip that I have for you, again, is to really get to know yourself, understand what you like, what you don't like, and it's all based on personal preferences. No one else can set your personal standards for you. This is something that internally you kind of got to look within, and you just really have to dig deep and figure out what it is that you like again and what it is that you don't like. And once you've done that, you can actually move on to step 2. All right, so this leads us to number 2. I want you to get out a piece of paper and we are going to create some columns. So for the sake of this example, we're just going to create 3 columns. The first column, we're going to say friendships. The second column, we're going to say dating. And then the third column, we're going to say working. Now you can create a lot of different columns. You can set standards for different parts of your life. We know that for the most part, when you're thinking about personal standards, you think about integrity, you think about privacy, you think about family, you think about honesty, you think about loyalty. There are so many different aspects to it, but we're just going to focus on the 3. So with the first one, I really want you to sit and think about what your thoughts are about dating. What do you feel is appropriate or inappropriate? And again, this is really based on you, what you're comfortable with, how you feel. Your religious beliefs may come into play here, but you need to have a standard set for you and your life and how you conduct your life. And if you don't have standards, what you have to think about is that just like anybody else, if you don't give your kids standards on how they're supposed to eat, and some people call these rules and regulations. If you just let them eat anything they want, most kids are going to choose sweets and junk and all of that good stuff. So you have to really set, a standard for how they're going to eat to make sure that they grow up and they eat healthy meals and, they're strong and all of that good stuff. And then, to keep them from having to go to the dentist and having rotten teeth and all of that good stuff. The same applies for your life. You have to set standards. So with the dating, you have to think about what's acceptable, what's unacceptable. So for you, let's just say for dating, your standard could be we don't do a date alone until we've gone on 3 dates. So your first date could be go to the movies. Your first date could be go out to eat. Your first date could be going to feed the ducks or going walking or whatever. You could set a personal standard for not being alone or one-on-one with that person, with no one else around for the first couple of days, just so you can get comfortable. So that means that person doesn't invite you to their house, and then you may have a personal standard where that person doesn't come to your house, at least for a specified period of time. And I think that's very important. And that second column, friendship, can be a lot of different things for a lot of different people, but you definitely need to set the standard and make sure that the friend that you are friends with, they understand those standards that you have. So maybe it's they don't call me in the middle of the night just randomly to talk because you work the next day. And so, it's really more of a courtesy for them not to call you, especially if it's not about anything. If it's an emergency, they probably need to be dialing 911, and they shouldn't be calling you unless they call 911 and they want to call you and tell you this tragic thing happened. Then that's totally different. But you want to set boundaries. If you're going to pick them up at a certain time and you notice a habitual habit of them being late or not ready, you may want to just let them know, hey, well, just let me know the moment that you're ready, or set the time 30 minutes early. If you notice a pattern where your friend is always late every time you go pick her up, she's still getting ready, it takes her extra 30 minutes, set the time, and say, okay, well, we need to leave at 7. I'm coming to pick you up, at 6:30. Or I'm coming to pick you up at 7 and you actually don't need to be there until late. So you can cushion that time if you need to. And so in the last column for work, again, this one's going to be one that you kind of look at where you are and what you're doing, what's acceptable at work, what's not acceptable, and you set the standard. Okay, I am going to go into work. I'm going to do exactly what I'm getting paid to do. And then you think about things outside of that. So set the standard for if you want to get a raise, or if you want to get a higher paying position, what are the things that you can do at work to help you get there? Maybe it is talking to your supervisor, maybe it is taking an extra course. And sometimes setting standards is also knowing that when you work, if your work time is from 8 until 5, regardless of what happens or what doesn't happen, if you need to leave because you have priorities in the afternoon, let's say childcare, or any other thing, you may have a second job, you need to make an effort to make sure that you are leaving at 5 o'clock, not 5:30, not 6 o'clock. And I know there are some jobs that you work that you can't just say, okay, I'm out. But that's something that you have to kind of internalize, maybe talk to your supervisor about. Hey, I understand that, I'm scheduled to work from this time to this time, and sometimes I run over. Is there anything that I can do to ensure that I'm getting off pretty close to the time, because I do have some other commitments? And that's just more of a communication piece. Sometimes it's not feasible. Let's just say you work with the public and you are working at a cash register. You guys are super busy and your boss is like, can you stay and get the line down? Then at that point, you have to make a decision on whether you're going to say, well, I get off at 5, I really have to go. Because, a lot of times your boss can step in and take over the line if they need to. But you do have to set standards when it comes to work, family, kids, just everything and those are the 3 that I just wanted you to start with, but you can definitely expand and go above and beyond those 3. The third thing, with those standards that you created, you have to live up to those standards. One thing that I make sure that I do in life is, if I make a promise to myself, I keep that promise to myself. A lot of times we make promises to everybody else, and we make sure that we're, keeping up with family birthdays and events and everything else. I made a promise to myself at the beginning of this year, and so far we are way beyond the halfway mark, and I'm so proud of myself, because no matter what, I have kept that promise to myself. If I get tired, if I'm sleepy, if I don't feel like it, I've made this one commitment to myself, and I do it religiously each week. And I'm super, super proud. I think in order for you to keep up with your standards, you definitely have to make sure that you are practicing whatever the standards are. But if you need to tweak those standards, definitely you should do that. The fourth and final tip that I have for you is to let others know about your tip. Now, I mentioned this when I talked about friendships. You should definitely let your friends know where your limits and where your boundaries are when it comes to certain things. This is also important when you are dating. A lot of times people kind of get into the woo stage of dating, and they really don't communicate when it comes to their standards. So I think that that's something that should be addressed at the beginning of the dating, so that person on the other end or receiving end of it kind of knows up front what the boundaries are. And so once you do that, I think that it helps alleviate some of the tension and the stress that maybe comes with dating. someone that you don't know anything about. And I think that comes up with talking, because a lot of times when you're dating, you're kind of talking about, oh, I want to do this, or I want to do that. I work here. I like this. I like that. But you don't ever really talk about those personal boundaries. So I think that, and again, you just want to let your family and friends know about your standards. And so that way it just kind of eases a little bit of the tension, and it helps you communicate a little better with everyone around you. Well, everyone, that's it for this video. I'd like to thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.